Hey, today we're going to read the final chapter of Gooney Bird Green. We're going to see how this plays in because we've got some cucumbers, grapefruit, or an orange or something there. We'll see. Gooney Bird looked around the classroom. She slid the strap of her cowhide purse from her shoulder and set the purse on the floor below the terrarium table. With her face scrunched into quiet thinking expression, she unbuttoned her orange fur jacket and hung it on the back of a chair by her desk. Then she returned to the front of the room and faced the class. She was wearing a blue plaid skirt, a white blouse, black tights, and brown lace-up boots. There were bright blue ribbons in her hair, in her neatly brushed red hair. She looked ordinary. She looked dignified. She looked wise. Out there, invisible, are a lot of stories not yet told, Gooney Bird told the class. Absolutely true ones? Beanie asked in a small voice. Yes, absolutely true ones. Where are they? Asked Beanie. Do you remember that my first story was called How Gooney Bird Got Her Name? Gooney Bird asked. Yes, Bean replied. So here we have Gooney Bird, her nicely brushed red hair and her blue ribbons. And she's taking off her orange coat. She's got a blue plaid skirt on, black tights, a white shirt, and brown lace-up shoes. There's her purse. And there's the terrarium. So she asked her, remember the first one was called How Gooney Bird Got Her Name. Well, another is called How Beanie Got Her Name. Before I was born, Beanie said, laughing, there was a thing called an ultrasound that showed me curled up inside my mom, and I looked just like a bean. My mom said a lima bean, and my dad said, no, a jelly bean. And so that's a fine beginning, Gooney Bird said. An absolutely true one. You should tell that on Friday, Beanie. What other invisible stories are out there? Mrs. Pigeon asked. Do you remember that my second story was about how I came from China on a flying carpet? Oh, yes, Mrs. Pigeon said. I had to look up China on the atlas. Out there, invisible and waiting, Gooney Bird said, is a story called. Let me think. She closed her eyes. Is that the title? Let me think, Malcolm said. No, Gooney Bird opened her eyes. The story is called How Kiko's Family Came to Water Tower. Kiko smiled. Well, they started out on a ship, she said. First, my grandmother and my grandfather got on a big ship in Yokohama and went to Honolulu. And they were a little scared because they had never been to America before. Mrs. Pigeon, you should get an atlas out. Mrs. Pigeon smiled. I will when you tell your story, Kiko. Maybe next Wednesday? That would be lovely, Gooney Bird said. And I could maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped a part, didn't I? She said, maybe next Wednesday. Okay, Kiko said. And I'll bring some pictures. And how about if I wear a kimono? That wouldn't be distracting like Whiskers, would it? It would be lovely, Gooney Bird said. And I could maybe carry a fan and a parasol? Gooney Bird said gently. That would be a little bit like Whiskers, Kiko. Overdoing it, Kiko said. Overdoing it, Gooney Bird said. What about me? Asked Barry. Do I have a story? Of course you do. Of course you do, Gooney Bird told him. You have stories called How Barry Got His Name and How Barry's Family Came to Water Tower and lots of others. Barry grinned. Which one should I tell? He asked. Do you remember that my third story was about my diamond earrings? Barry nodded. My suggestion is that when it's your turn, Barry, you should tell an absolutely true story called when Barry spent every penny he had on something he wanted really badly. The class waited and watched Barry Tuckerman as he squinched his face up thinking. Then he grinned. Okay, I'll tell it, but it's really, really gross. Oh no, said Kiko. I hate gross. You can cover your ears for Barry's story, Gooney Bird told her. Wear earmuffs that day. Green ones would go nicely with your red sweater, I think. Who else? What else? The class crawled. My fourth story was called How Gooney Bird Directed an Orchestra. Mrs. Pigeon suggested. Maybe we could skip that one, Gooney Bird. I know no one in this class has ever led an orchestra. Class, Gooney Bird asked, has anyone here ever been late to school because something quite unusual happened? Almost every hand went up. Malcolm, Gooney Bird said, maybe that story could be your assignment. It could be called Why Malcolm Was Late to School. It could be about the time I was asleep under my bed and my mom couldn't find me in the morning, Malcolm said. Or that time when I dropped my toothbrush in the toilet and then when I tried to get it back. Oh no! Pico cried and covered her ears. Don't tell it now and give it away, Malcolm, Gooney Bird said. You work on your story and make it very suspenseful by adding the suddenly in the middle. Gooney Bird looked around the classroom. All the second graders had taken out paper and pencils. They were all writing down ideas for their stories. And remember my last story about Catman? She reminded them. Has anyone ever lost a beloved pet? Almost every hand went up again, even Miss Pigeon's. Could that be my story, Gooney Bird? Mrs. Pigeon said. I had a parakeet named Brucey, and somehow the door to the cage was left open, and next Tuesday, Gooney Bird said, how I lost Brucey. And found him again, Mrs. Pigeon said with a happy smile. My story has a surprise ending. Mine will be how I lost Gretchen Guinea Pig, Teresa said. Mine has a sad ending. You know what? Mrs. Pigeon said, standing up. It's lunchtime already. Let's skip arithmetic today. The students put their arithmetic books back in their desk. They reached for their lunch boxes instead. Gooney Bird took out a grapefruit and cucumber and some dill pickles. I'm having a completely vegetarian day today, she explained. But look at this, dessert for the whole class. She held up a bulky paper bag. Oh, what is it? The children asked. Gooney Bird grinned. 63 gumballs, she said. And after I give them out, I'm going to teach you all a wonderful whirling dance called the tarantella. Suddenly, Felicia Ann looked up from the floor. Shouldn't we all, hug and kiss first? She said in a surprisingly loud voice. Why, thank you for suggesting that, Felicia Ann, Gooney Bird replied. Of course we should. And so they did. The end. Did you like that story? I really liked Gooney Bird. She's quite the character, and she had very good stories to tell, didn't she? Even though how she named them kind of got you mixed up on what was really going to happen. It made us think one thing, and she played with the words and made something else happen, didn't she? That was pretty smart of her. If you like this story, they have more Gooney Bird books. There's 6 Gooney Bird books. The first one we read, this is the one we read, Gooney Bird Green. And then the second one is Gooney Bird and the Room Mother. Third one is Gooney the Fabulous. Gooney Bird is So Absurd. Gooney Bird on the Map. And Gooney Bird and All of Her Charms. So if you really like this book, there's more of them out there that you can get and read. You can probably get them right from the library if you wanted. I hope you love this book. You're going to tell your own story. So start thinking about how you were named, or maybe a time you were late for class, or you lost a pet. You're going to tell your story in the style of Gooney Bird. Think of all the things that she taught us about writing in that last chapter. Maybe re-listen to the chapter. Yeah. So think about that. You're going to do that the next day. I hope you liked the book. I sure did.